June 2024 has a lot of amazing energy for us, many twists and turns. All we have to do is make sure that we can handle these squares to Saturn and Pisces. We got to stay integral with what we know is the deepest truth in our hearts and stay spiritually connected as these Gemini opportunities open up all around us. I'm your astrologer, Christian Klausner, and this is my friend.
Aubrey Nicole. I am an intuitive tarot card reader and I also practice cartomancy.
Yes, and today we're going to break down what we can see is coming for June of 2024. We're also going to break down the sign Gemini and just help you understand what this third zodiac sign is all about. You ready for this, Aubrey?
I'm so ready. Let's go.
Amazing. Let's dive right in. Let me pull up this presentation here. Doo, doo, doo.
I love your presentations. I always learn so much. I'm excited.
Thank you. I do my best. All
You do a
right.
great job.
Thank you. Well, this is a quick little breakdown of June and Gemini season. So Gemini happens around May 20th and it lasts until June 20th. So the majority of June is spent with the sun in Gemini. And Gemini is the sign of the twins. We'll get into what that symbology is all about. But it's an air sign, and this is the first air sign to appear in the order of the signs. So as we always recap you guys, air is about rational analysis, understanding and responding with the intellect, connecting ideas to come to a general understanding. It's very detached and unemotional energy. And this is that last phase of spring. If we look at this sine wave here, we can see that it's where the sun is climbing in its northern ascent, and it's moving towards the Tropic of Cancer on the Earth, which is the summertime when the sun reaches that part of the sky for us in the north. So we're currently right here at this phase of Gemini where it's really almost there to its highest point. And this is the longest days and the shortest nights for those of us in the northern hemisphere. And it's just the peak of this sunlight, but it's this amazing time before it hits that peak where there's a lot of energy rushing out to meet with its partner. So we have a lot of things in pairs here in Gemini season, whether it's butterflies with their two wings, birds with their two wings, or, even the birds and the bees, they're meeting in pairs. There's a lot of things that we see in double during this time. And this is that third sign. So it's right here, Gemini. It's a mutable air sign. And Gemini is the talker. It's about communication and connection. And Gemini is really about using the mind. It has these two hemispheres. So Gemini rules duality everywhere that we see it. And anytime we have a thought, it works through duality. It works in time. And there's always a counter thought to every thought. So Gemini, as I see it, really just has to do with everything that is split in the world. So here in the human body, Gemini rules the arms and the hands, which we use to reach out with each other and, connect. It also rules the lungs and the vocal cords, which are these two pillars, which is really what the symbol of Gemini represents. Um, all sound comes through two things hitting each other. And whether it's the two vocal cords or, really any sound, it's always the clashing of two things. So Gemini rules this experience of sound, of communication, and connecting with others. Um, and this is a time where we should open ourselves up to life. It can really be a natural time for us to do that, where you're just opening yourself up to new experiences, meeting new people, trying new things. And this is really going to culminate once the sun comes into Cancer on June 20th, which is the summer solstice, where you feel more secure in your new connections and they start getting more emotional in nature, as that's a water sign. So now's the time to mingle, to enjoy a lot of different experiences and opportunities to meet new people and just put yourself out there. I noticed that during this season, I just have to go downtown and it's like I most likely am going to meet somebody or some new kind of awesome experience is going to open up. People are more willing to conversate during this time. It's really just so lovely. So just make sure you get outside and enjoy the company of other people. So the archetypes that I have for Gemini is it's the messenger, the jester, the student, the storyteller, the trickster, and the thinker. I'm sure we're going to get even deeper into these archetypes once Aubrey brings up the tarot cards. But this is really a sign in which not only is it open to connection, but it can be very tricky as well. It can be this kind of energy where I'm showing you my right hand, but you don't see what my left hand is doing. And we always need to remember that there's two sides to things. If you meet a Gemini person, you have to know that there are two sides to this person, and they're showing you one side, but then you're going to see the other side at some other time. So Gemini mentally, when I contemplate and meditate the sign, it has this dual aspect to it, but it can also have this kind of energy where you see one hand and then you see the other, and they flip. And so just with this dual energy, you want to avoid being tricked, especially with Venus that we have in Gemini, very close to the sun. And you know how these planets have been working with Pluto and now Jupiter is in Gemini. I'll show you the charts, but there's a lot of inflation of this kind of energy. And you want to watch out for love bombing. That's a big thing that's going to happen now is people are very flirtatious and they're going to fall in love, but it's not going to have that full emotional element in it. It's really just going to be a convenient distraction for a lot of people, this romance, or, you know, them distracting themselves from something in life and just trying to feel good through you. But I just want to say that you really want to watch out for love bombers, for people who just shower you in flirtatious, comments that woo you, because it'll be easy to get wooed in this season. It'll be a lot of fun. But if it's distracting from our true spiritual purpose, that's where we're going to hit some heavy karma with the aspects to Saturn, which you're going to see. Okay, so born roughly, approximately May 21st to June 20th. The symbol is the twins. It's air and it's mutable. It's mutable because it's the sign right before the solstice, which is a cardinal sign, which is the initiation of a new season. So Gemini is that last phase of spring for us in the north. And so it's transitioning, it's transmuting, it's transforming this energy into a new kind of energy. And that's why there's a lot of flexibility energetically happening now in our social circles and our social lives and within our minds. So this is a wonderful season for buying books, studying new things, doing some research, and starting that new intellectual, you know, project that you have going on, whether it's a new podcast or a website that's going to bring you in more closer contact and communication with the world, whatever it is that is going to allow you to extend the reach of your mind and your ideas, you really want to lean into that now. The planetary ruler of this sign is Mercury, the closest planet to the sun, moves so fast, circles all the way around the sun in just 88 days or something like that. And Mercury spends 14 to 30 days in each sign. So Mercury's the quickest planet and it's the messenger of the gods. And it really speaks to the mercurial nature of Gemini. Very curious, very quick, very witty, but very hard to nail down. The body part, like I said, are the arms and hands. And it also rules the respiratory system, the vocal cords, and really any aspect of the body that comes in twos, pairs of two. So two eyes, two ears, two nostrils, two lungs, all that stuff.
I just had a thought, Christian.
I
So
saw that. Yeah, go
I was
ahead.
like visualizing Mercury like going around the sun so fast. And then you're
Hmm.
talking about, Gemini being the jester, the messenger, and some of the cards we'll get into represent those archetypes, like you said. But I just imagine kind of the jester, the messenger next to the king. The king, the sun makes the decree. The messenger, Mercury, kind of runs out and delivers it really quickly. And it's pacing really quickly to make sure it has the most up-to-date news from the central sun. So I just had like a really strong visual. And then you're saying the hands and the throat, it's like grab that scroll from the king, head out, and then shout out like the page does. You shout out the news. So
Yes.
that's like going to help me remember it more, I think, in the future. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah. It's an extension of the king, right? So he sends his messenger out and it extends outward. In the same way, your words and your thoughts and your sentiments are an extension of you. But where this gets tricky and becomes a trickster energy is that messenger going to give a clear message of what the king intends? Or is he going to spin it and manipulate it and sometimes our thoughts and our words and the way we communicate doesn't always very clearly reveal the core of the message we were truly trying to get across. So this is an energy where when you bring discernment and intention and care and clarity to your words, then you have a better chance of there not being any manipulation or confusion or miscommunication about, what's actually coming from the king, from the heart, from the ruler inside you. And then there's different things tied into that, as well, like the courage to really be seen for who you truly are and these kinds of things. So there's a lot to this sign. And the key expression is, I think. So this is very thinking kind of energy, and we want to avoid just getting lost in thinking because the mind can see things from many different angles in all these different ways, but the knowing that really provides security comes from the heart. And so we got to remember to connect to the heart because the heart doesn't come in a pair in the body. It's a singular organ, it's by itself. So a quote that I wrote for Gemini to kind of encapsulate the attitude or the energy of the sign is, if it can't be explained, does it even exist? And I love Gemini people so much. I had this good friend that I worked with. He was a Gemini. He was like a purebred Gemini. He could get along with everyone. And he had the gift of gab so much more than anyone I've ever met. And he could charismatically woo anyone. But he, energetically kind of lacked this substance. It kind of, after getting to know him more deeply, it's kind of like, who are you? Where are you? Because you could just camouflage himself based on any environment he was in very skillfully, amazing. It made him well liked, but made you wonder who's really underneath all that. And he has, a lot of the Geminis I meet, they have this need to be able to understand something and to explain it. And they tend to not give too much thought or care into things that can't fully be explained. And so, there's strengths to that, there's perks to that, but there's also cons to that. And that gets into what Manly Palmer Hall says about this sign, which is that they can really get rounded out if they will apply some philosophical thinking to themselves and how they view the world. And this ties into balancing yourself with the opposite signs energies, the polarity, which is Sagittarius, a sign of philosophy. So to help you understand Gemini a little more, Sagittarius asks, why? Why do these things work the way they work? Gemini is that energy that asks, how? How does it work? I want to know how. So one is asking how is very utilitarian, very mechanical, and very here and now, very hands-on. And Sagittarius is asking why, so it's much more broad and philosophical. And these two aspects of the mind, they really complement each other. So here's this quote by Manly Palmer Hall. The religious instincts are not usually highly developed, but the Gemini native, carefully avoiding all intensely emotional forms of religion, should develop its more philosophical aspects. The Gemini thinker is apt to pass through the experience of agnosticism and atheism. He must also avoid one peculiar fault that is part of his subjective makeup. He must not be overwhelmed by the opinions of others or accept too much of the authority of persons he respects. The Gemini mind can be awed into a state of acceptance and is greatly impressed by persons who claim to be authorities on various subjects. It is a good plan to remember the words of Buddha when he said, I will accept nothing as truth, regardless of authority, unless I can prove it in myself. So the ability to tune into the light within you, Gemini people, or anyone with major planets in Gemini, is a big key to finding that guiding light within and not basing it on external authority, on what other people say, but on what you can verify from within yourself. All right, and that brings us to some of the biggest transits here, which these are my opinion, right, as an astrologer. Um, we've got the early part of June, Jupiter and Mercury freshly enter Gemini, and they are trining Pluto. And during this time, we have a Venus-Sun conjunction. And Venus and Sun are really together all throughout June, which I'll get into how that affects relationships. Then we have a new moon early in the early part of the month, and followed by a Mars square Pluto. So let me just lay these out for you, and then I'll get to interpreting them. Um, we also have a Sun Mercury conjunction in Gemini, very powerful since that's Mercury's sign, midway through June. In the middle of June, we also have Mercury and Venus form a conjunction in Cancer. Lots of sensitive energy here midway through June. And then we've got the summer solstice, June 20th, where the sun enters Cancer. That's the longest day and the shortest night. Super fun. Then June ends with a full moon in Capricorn. Very industrious, very useful full moon for helping you find out what's useful, what's useless in your life, and sort of a very sobering kind of energy there. But then we have Saturn turn retrograde at the end of June. So let me show you this in the charts. So, um, in the early part of June, let me set this up so our pictures aren't in the way. Um, So here we are in the early part of June. We've got Jupiter that just entered Gemini, which is so cool. We've got a whole year ahead of Jupiter expanding our ideas, expanding our willingness to talk things out and put things on the table, which is really needed at this stage of the world, of our evolution. All these crazy things happening in the world. We've got to open up our awareness and start to talk about it. And Mercury hops into Gemini as well, June 3rd. So this is forming an amazing trine. If you can see this trine to Pluto, this is transformative awareness. If you can just be fully aware in the first part of June, just open your mind and stay curious about how things work and how you can get better and how you can improve your life. Just make that a curious thing. Stay fun and light and easy with it. So much is going to naturally change and transform in how you're seeing things. You just got to be open to it. It's a choice because as these planets go on, and here we have Venus and the Sun staying together really through most of this month, relationships are going to be something this month that are so rewarding, so warm and life-giving that it's going to be really, really exciting. There's going to be new love that blossoms, but Venus and the Sun, Cazimi, is spiritually about reuniting our hearts with our values and finding out what our heart truly wants and needs and values in this life. And then finding a way to express that and share that with others. Because Venus is all about cooperation between bodies, between individuals, between different cultures, different environments. And these need to be communicated now that it's in Gemini. So the unfortunate part of this is that there's not much substance to Gemini. It's really about staying light and easy and free so that we can explore different topics and jump from one thing to the next. Unfortunately, that just might be the thing that happens in relationship. As soon as it gets a little boring or a little emotionally serious, which it will, as these things start to square Saturn here, people are gonna want to duck out, or at least the Gemini energy within us all is gonna want to do that. It's really a question of, can you stay still and can you concentrate and can you stick around when the going gets tough or when it gets emotionally challenging. So the emotional challenges will really be felt around this time, June 7th, 8th, and 9th, as Venus and the Sun start to square Saturn exact. And then, around June 11th and 12th, Mercury is going to start to square Saturn as well. So throughout June, there's this pervasive squaring to Saturn, which creates tension. And the tension is Saturn in Pisces is trying to teach us to anchor in ourselves in spiritual practices where we can find a renewal of our energy from within based on the things we're doing through our disciplines and our structures that we're building into our life. Saturn in Pisces, remember, Saturn is karma, and Pisces is that final stage of release before the rebirth happens in Aries. So it's us needing to let go of everything that doesn't serve us. And we know it doesn't serve us if it creates friction, resistance, disharmony in ourselves and in our relationships. And basically, if it just doesn't feel right, right? If it just doesn't feel good, then this is being revealed to us so that we can hopefully heal it and address it. And this a square to Gemini is a spiking of our awareness of these things that don't feel right, that don't feel comfortable. But it's going to be a test of, does it feel bad because you're just not used to the challenge? You're not used to, going to the gym. So yeah, it hurts the muscles and it's very uncomfortable and you feel funny doing these exercises because you haven't done them much. Is it just that you don't have much exposure and you're getting used to being outside your comfort zone? Or is it truly something that it's not in harmony with your soul? It doesn't resonate, so it's not true to you, and it's time to release it. This is going to be the thing where you have to discern it for yourself, right? This fork in the road that you've got to decide what it is. Um, Luckily, we have a lot of sextiles happening between all these planets here in Gemini this month with these things we have here in Chiron. So we've got the North Node in Aries, excuse me. We have North Node, Chiron, and Mars all in Aries for the early part of June. Mars comes into Taurus June 9th, which really grounds out the energy and adds a little more earth, which is good, more stability, and more practicality in how we are pursuing things, and what we're desiring, and how we're moving towards it. But the sextiles to the North Node show that all of our curiosity and our flirtatiousness with life and us enjoying the things we love and enjoying people can truly work with this energy that's propelling us towards our goals, towards our most meaningful things that we're trying um, to conquer and move towards and go in head first towards and find more assertiveness with. That our relationships are really going to encourage us finding our evolution and our courage. And so there is a lot of forward momentum with this fire, working with the air, right? Fanning these flames and heating up our interests and the things that we're passionate about, and that we can really make progress as souls in our evolution. This new moon in Gemini is also worth looking at because it is perfectly conjunct Venus at the 16th degree. Let me show you. Boom. Okay, so here we have Sun, Moon, and Venus all together in Gemini on the new moon, June 6th at 5:55 a.m. Beautiful.
I was just noticing that it's like fives represent like that movement and change, and it's like five, 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 five. It's like that is definitely what's happening.
Yeah, that's nice. And this looks like really, really awesome energy for renewing our attitudes, mindsets, and assumptions, our thoughts that we have about relationships in our lives. Um, and this looks like a time to kind of do that Men in Black memory wipe of things that have traumatized you in relationship, where you're bringing that same energy into your relationship, saying, well, I was abused, so my relationships are abusive. There's this, whatever experience we've had, we tend to have an underlying assumption about it. It's like if you eat bad fish at a restaurant and then it was just terrible and you got sick, and now it's like what you subconsciously, instinctively assume is that all fish is bad. So you smell it and you go, ugh, if you ever smell fish, and you go, I'm never eating fish at another restaurant again. And none of that is true. That was just that one bad fish. You could have a nice, healthy, amazing fish at some point in the future, but we have this subconscious aversion to it now. So our experiences, they kind of get lodged in to create assumptions. And this looks like a new moon where a lot of that can get wiped clean. If you'll work with that energy, if you'll open your mind and heart, find forgiveness, and see how to move forward, you can. This shows me that this is a season and a time in this year where we can truly approach our new relationships with a fresh mind. And one of my favorite scripture verses is, don't conform to the patterns of this world, but be renewed uh, by the renewing of your mind. I totally butchered that there, but renew your mind. Don't conform to the patterns of the external world. And it goes on to say, then you will know the true and good will of the Creator. So we got to renew our minds, and this looks like a new moon, June 6th, that can really, really help us to do that. So I'm super looking forward to that very positive new moon. It's a new chapter. And it has a lot to do with relationship and how we communicate in our relationships. So just try to find a good intention for how you want relationships to go in your life, and how do you want it to be communication wise? Do you want it to be fully open and free and transparent? What do you want? And with that intention, you can start to create that. Okay, so mid-June, we really we got these squares coming off of Saturn, and this just like looks like a warning to stay responsible, stay integral. Don't get too lost in flirting or manipulating with life too much, and getting people, the wrong idea, or giving yourself the wrong idea. Try to stay clear and use this to break through to a new level of authenticity, of bringing your whole heart into whatever it is that you're doing. Spiritual practices are really going to help with this. Meditation late at night before bed and early in the morning as you wake up really help you stay present and not give way to the franticness of your thoughts, but to breathe and stay in the heart and go, oh, this is difficult, but I'm going to tell the truth to this person right now. Life gets way better and way easier when we tell the truth. And this just looks like such heavy karma of, are you going to tell the truth? Are you going to speak from the soul? Or are you going to speak from the ego that just wants to get what it wants? Remember, ego is about taking and keeping, because the ego sees itself as separate, but the soul is about giving and receiving. And what an amazing time of year we have to really give and receive, if we'll overcome the fear of the ego. Um, so late June, we've got a full moon in Capricorn. Uh, Lovely. Very sobering full moon, like I said. This full moon in Capricorn, the moon doesn't like being in Capricorn. It's in detriment there. The moon prefers to be in the opposite sign where the sun is, in Cancer. And by this point, we're gonna have Mercury and Venus both in Cancer here. So there's a lot of sensitivity that turns on in June, late June. And this is where people are gonna go, do you really care about me? You know? Do you really mean the things you've been texting me and telling me, whispering in my ear, those sweet little nothings? Are those sweet little somethings? And this is when people either put up the crab shell and walk sideways away, or they stay with you and they clamp down with their crab claws, and there's immense tenaciousness to Cancer, and this is where things really get attached. But one day into Cancer season, June 21st, and we have a full moon already. So this is going to be a big tidal wave of emotion, and a lot of people saying like, what's real? Is this real or is this not real? And I would advise that you try and retain some of the Gemini casualness of not pushing too hard too fast with labels and things. Um, because there's going to be so much water energy just helping you know. You can intuitively sense who cares for you and who doesn't, but you might have to let things continue to kind of ride out and see where it goes, because the full moon in Capricorn it's a wake up call. It's a grounding back into reality, a reality check. And um but most of all, you want to be realistic about where you're at in terms of your goals. That full moon's very sobering when it comes to what do you want to achieve and have in life, and are you doing what you know you need to do in order to have that? And I recommend you join my Wednesday manifestation classes, because that's about getting you to relax, to attract what you want, instead of just grinding, grinding, grinding. The reason it's so hard to get what we want is because we have subconscious blocks. As soon as we deal with those blocks and shine the awareness on them, we can reprogram those. And as those change, it gets easier to flow towards what you want. It should be a flow, it should be fun. And, we really manifest when we're in a state of play and creativity, not in a place of forcing and resisting and, you
I have to
know,
shout out your class, Christian. I have a friend who's actually in the Manifestation Wednesday class, and she
oh,
has been
cool.
sending me updates and really seeing some positive things happening in her life throughout the course. So I do have to shout that out.
Awesome. So glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been having such a blast with these classes. They've really been a success. So that's been cool to see. That's the only other time I've gone off of astrology. I did a spiritual warfare class one time, and now I've done this. So
Yeah, my friend is really enjoying it. Like I get the updates as it's going on, so she's very
awesome.
happy with it. Yeah.
Very cool. I have to ask you when we're done recording who your friend is. I think I know, but yeah, if you're hearing this, you want to join these classes, they're by donation only, just whatever you can donate. And then you get invited back every single Wednesday. So, and you can see the replay of all the previous classes, and that's just with a one-time donation of whatever you can afford. So if that sounds like a good deal, then get in contact with me and I'll get you the invite. So yeah, that's a big full moon there in Capricorn, and you just want to make sure I mean, it can be rough emotionally. It can really feel like a reality check, and those don't always feel so good. That's why the moon doesn't do so well in Capricorn. Um, so with that full moon, just be honest about what you're doing and what you're not doing in terms of achieving the life you really want, and be grateful to see what you see during that full moon. Be grateful to see if you're being lazy or if you're not taking full responsibility, be grateful for that. Don't beat yourself up about that because then you just dig the hole deeper. All right, so the late part of June is an extreme shift out of that Gemini energy because Mercury and Venus at the same time enter Cancer and they have a conjunction at 0 degrees. And that's before the sun makes it in. So I would highly advise that whatever comes to light intuitively about, oh, if this person has my best interests or if they don't, or whatever is going on, that you stay true to your heart, and try not to over intellectualize anything. But yeah, the last 10 days of June look very, very emotional. Um, and yeah.
You know, as you're saying this, I almost see it as it's almost like we're being, it's just, I just see this whole like progression. It's on the 6th, we're being asked to sort of, not sort of, you used a good word. You said mind wipe. We're almost being asked not to forget our past, but to just realize that it's a story, a chapter that's closed,
Mm,
retain those learnings, hold on to them, but don't expect the same chapter to play out again. And then the last
yeah.
10 days in June, with all of the heavy weight over in Cancer, we have everything over there except for the moon and detriment on the other side of the sky in Capricorn. It's trust your feelings, trust your gut. We're getting practice of getting out of this Capricorn world. It's like trust your body, trust your instincts, trust your heart. Don't go crazy and forget all the lessons of the past. So we almost have this filter where we get to run our emotions, the moon, we get to run that through Capricorn. It's like run it through the framework. Okay. Are there obvious red flags or are there obvious things that would point to yes or no? Take those into account, but then just double check, come back to the body, come back to what does the soul feel? You can trust yourself. So it's almost like God just being like, you can trust yourself, but don't fly off the handle and get too, because in the Gemini season, it really is. It's kind of a master class. Like this is not easy astrology. It's Gemini can go so fast and our minds can race and we think we know the answer. And it's just like, hey, in all of the activity, can you stay active while still remembering the things that you know? It's almost like why we go to yoga, right? If you just wanted to
Hmm.
learn how to breathe and meditate, you could sit down and do it. In a yoga class, you're having to move your body and still keep the breath there. You're doing all these complicated poses. So it's almost
Yeah.
like the master class, like you start to put everything together. And can you go out in the world in a really social, fun, light, fast moving time? Trust your body, but not lose your mind and run everything through Capricorn, but then don't just stop there and go, oh, my mind feels scared or I feel scared. I'm just going to be super logical about this. And it's like, nope, stay in it, but retain your frame. So I just feel, I mean, regardless of the age people are at, like biological age, man, this is really, we may get some tests. I could just see some tests coming at us. And it's just a really super interesting when you're combining all of this. I'm like, this is not like one or two layers. There's meta layers being added to this at the end of the video game, almost, so to speak.
Absolutely. Well said. And it's worth noting that the South Node is in Libra, you guys. So that's relationships. And South Node is it's where we don't want to face. We want to face the North Node and move into that. And the South Node shows the energy to be released and to be overcome. And Venus is such a key player in this whole Gemini season, so close to the sun all month that, relationships are going to feel so good, like I said, so life-giving, so warm. But the South Node in Libra, relationships are not something to escape into now in order to distract yourself from the healing and the power and the identity that you can cultivate in your life now. And it takes immense courage to do that because it's saying, hey, this is me. And now you can dislike the true me. And that's going to hurt. That's going to cut deeper than because if I show you a fake persona, you can hate that, but at least you're not hating the real me. And I know that. But creating that dummy of a persona is, that punching bag is that's not a safe way to go. That's just so be careful with the South Node in Libra that you're not escaping into your partnerships or escaping to these good feelings of, oh, I have somebody to cuddle with now, because you most likely will, regardless of your age, wherever you're at in life. If you've been wanting a relationship, they're going to likely flow in now as long as you're, staying open, keeping your eyes up, you're giving available body language and posture. People are going to feel that impulse to want to meet with other people who are on that same vibe of openness and availability. And yeah, you're going to connect with somebody. The karmic question now is, are you going to put that relationship above your highest ideal, above God, above your true self? I just hope not, because you will have the best experience by not sacrificing all these true things. You will attract relationships that are perfectly harmoniously balanced and based on giving and receiving of the truth of the heart. And it just takes courage to be seen for that. But once you're seen for that, then somebody will recognize it and they will like you for you. You got to have the courage to put your real self out there. So, and then last thing, really late in June, once we have all this Cancer stuff, Mercury is going to be the first to form this trine with Saturn in Pisces. Saturn's at 19, Mercury's at 19. This symbolizes that you're going to come into some intense um, concentration about something. You're going to likely come into some kind of conclusion about things. And if you can retell the story, about what you assume happens in relationship with that Gemini new moon, then by this time it's going to crystallize and you're going to see new evidence about what you can create in your relationships and how good things can be and how you can be open and receptive to the good that you want. Um, so the end of June looks like really powerful for concentration, but also for crystallizing some new belief or assumption in your mind. And then at the very end of June, I think on the 29th, might be later on in the day in the 28th, but Saturn turns retrograde, which means Saturn's offline. And this becomes a time where we might be met with certain obstacles in life all throughout this retrograde period, which goes until, I'm not sure, let me fast forward in the future. But Saturn retrograde means you can really become aware of your inner blocks, your inner obstacles, especially the subconscious things where you go, all right, this is as successful as I can be. And subconsciously you block yourself. And we might not know that's what's going on. But if you can see what are the subconscious blocks, Saturn retrograde period is really good for that. And this is going to last until November 14th. 15th, it turns direct. So we've got to use the rest of this year pretty much to work with Saturn going all the way back to the 12th degree. So if you have any placements in mid Pisces, it's really going to get hit by this. This is going to be a reminder of something that you went through in in 2023, in the later part of it, where you had some blocks or something, and you're going to see how much you've overcome with your spiritual disciplines, with your discipline about taking care of yourself behind the scenes, prayer, meditation, and nurturing yourself from a deeper place, from an unconditionally loving place. And this is the last thing I'll say. I really think Saturn in Pisces is teaching us all that we've got to make the decision to love ourselves, to love yourself like you're your favorite person. And it doesn't have to be your best version or your higher version, because that kind of creates this dichotomy thing. Why not just your favorite version? Why not just I am my favorite? And I want you guys to know that love at the end of the day is a decision and it's a choice. And if you just make the choice that today I'm going to love myself more than I ever have, then you keep going, you keep building on this, you know? Because as humans, we don't really stagnate. We either start going down or we start going up. And one surefire way to make sure you keep going up and up is you ask yourself, can I love myself more than I ever have today? And the reason that's important is because if you don't love you, then there's an underlying belief that you're not lovable. And so if that's the belief, all your relationships will reflect this reality that you're projecting from within, that you're not lovable. And then you'll go, see, told you I'm not lovable because they just left me. But all the while you're pushing them away because the radiation of your own consciousness is that I'm not lovable. Because why? Because you didn't love yourself. And what is that? It's a choice. I just really hope you can find your free will choice, your power of your choice to love yourself and to love your life. Everything will get better from there, from that decision. That's it for me. I'm so excited to see what's in the cards that correspond to this energy this year.
Yeah, that was amazing, Christian, per usual. Masterclass every time, every time. I pulled 5 cards for Gemini season, and I'll just hold them up quickly, run through them, and then just jump into some of the specifics and the details for why I selected them for this season. So, kind of start with like the least, let's call it the least pleasant cards to go along with this season. I have the Eight of Swords. We can see here, this is a card that represents someone getting too in their mind. We can see they're trapped. The swords represent the mental realms. They're kind of in their mind. Then we have the Magician card. Love this. Very much a Gemini card related to Mercury. And Knight of Swords. And the card that sits right next to it, his sister, the Page of Swords. And finally, the Lovers card. Totally a Gemini card here. And so I'll start with the Lovers. I think that's a fun one to start with. So the Lovers is really, people get this card and they think it's just all about relationships, romantic relationships. Truly, this card is about partnership, but it's also about making decisions. And I loved what you said in Gemini. Just take a look at this card. Look where the woman is focused in this card. See how she's looking up to the angel, and then the man is looking at her. So he's looking at her, she's looking up. And I loved when you said, don't use relationships as a distraction to avoid your spiritual journey. Because even though she's, open to him and they're in partnership here, she's still looking up to God. God is her number one priority. That's her first relationship. And by her looking up to the angel, it's often said in, female, masculine, like relationships, heteronormative relationships, like the woman leads the man in spirituality. And so he may sometimes in lust forget that God is number one, but it's, part of her duty to look up and hold that for her part of the relationship. So I love this. You also said like reuniting our hearts with our values. So just making the choice, like keeping in check, like, okay, I care about this person or this relationship or this project, and then just always double checking back up to make sure that's in line with our values. So Lover's card for that. Next, I thought we could talk about the Page of Swords. I mean, this card really, if I had to pick one card, it might be this and the Lovers. It kind of ties. So the Pages are the youngest energy in the court. They are kind of like the little sister, very much jester, messenger. Pages are earthbound. And the Swords family is in the mental realm. So we can see this person. She has a lot of intellectual curiosity. Her mind may get her in trouble sometimes. Very youthful energy. She's into learning and exploring. This card really brings with it a sense of dynamic communication and ties back to that idea of Mercury, Gemini being the messenger of God or the sun. So red boots here. We know that she moves quickly. She's swift. Her hair is kind of tangled. We can also see, though, she's a bit paranoid. So we want to definitely kind of pay attention to what the people around us are saying. Like you said, some people can just be talking and chatty, but what's underneath. But we don't want to lean too hard and then get, just get gossipy or jump to conclusions. So that's could be maybe the watch out sign in Gemini. It's like just try to ask, don't make assumptions, don't let your mind run ahead of itself. The next card I like to, it's like her brother, the Knight of Swords. This is, you talked about fire kind of fanning the air. The knights very much bring the fire. And I mean, this dude is like running like a bat out of hell, like swift action, quick thinking. There's a sense of passion behind his thinking and his words and his actions. In this Gemini season, it makes sense to be assertive and energetic. Like, go out there. If you see someone and you want to talk to them, talk to them. Like, you never know where those connections can go. This card represents, which I think ties really well with Gemini, it represents the pursuit of logical solutions to solve challenges. So we don't just sit there in Gemini and go, I don't know, I'm not sure yet. It's like, put out some logical solutions, run them down. If the first one doesn't work, back up, try the next one, and just keep going. Like, there are logical solutions to be found. And this energy does want to be light, easy, and free. And if we're talking about friendships or romantic relationships or committing to a project with someone, notice where the heart is on this card. See how the heart is on the bridle of the horse? It should probably be inside this guy's chest, right? So he's almost put his heart onto the vehicle with which he's moving, right? It's like the love bombing and like not being connected to, like, is your heart connected to the throat and the mind? Is it all tracking as one? Or are you just getting ahead of yourself and like making all these plans and letting that run ahead of you? So I would say the watch out for Knight of Swords. Man, the Knight of Swords can go too fast. Let's go fast, but let's make sure that we're actually like in the physical body. This guy's moving so fast that he's not, his anatomy is actually all over the place. So that's the only watch out with the Knight of Swords, I would say. I really thought when you were talking about the emotional challenges that could come up between like June 7th and 9th with all of the squaring to Saturn, I was really thinking about this. Like, can you stay present in the emotional challenges? Stay present. Don't try to quickly solve or talk or run away. It's like, just chill, take a breath, and balance that with the energetic wanting to solve the problems, like the energy of wanting to solve that. The next card, I'm gonna switch the cards. I'm gonna switch the order in which I was gonna do them so we can end on a high note. But the Eight of Swords, I'll come back to this one. So the Eight of Swords really represents feeling like trapped or restricted by your thoughts and perceptions. And it can relate to, if you know a Gemini or somebody with a lot of like strong Gemini placements, they can kind of overthink or become really indecisive. They could almost like be frozen and they're just like spinning with all these ideas. And you're like, whoa, like take a breath, chill out. So I think this card is just a good reminder in Gemini season to use your analytical abilities to see beyond self-imposed limitations. This woman is not actually trapped out here. Like, she's not. These swords are not in a cage around her. You can tell the binds are kind of loose. Like, it's a little ribbon. It's not chains. It's like, you know, you just have to try to find that calmness or that healing and peace of mind through focus and removing distractions. If there's too many thoughts, like these swords represent thoughts, too many thoughts, take a breath, take the blindfold off, lay a couple of the swords, the thoughts down, focus on what's there. So
Yeah, I like that. The one thing that came to me is she's wearing red, and that's a color of action and energy, and it's almost like she is taking an action there, which is just the action of being in the thought activity and being constrained by that. So,
it's a
yeah.
really good point. The color, in the tarot, everything means something. The color of her shoes, the fact that they're pointed, the way her hair is blowing, the little castle, I could go on and on, but I'll tell you what this red symbolizes. You're on the right track. This red symbolizes shame and humiliation. So she's sitting here using all of her energy. All of that could be passion and movement
Mm,
and shame and humiliation.
mm,
And she's barely dipping her toe into the water. So she's really let her mind get out of control. And it's time to take a breath, step into the water a bit more, take a breath,
yeah.
and get out of the mind. Right. So, really good point on that color, noticing that color. And the final card, I love this. It's when you see the card, people just think, yay, the magician, best card ever. And it is, but there's the watch outs that come with Gemini, right? So the magician is absolutely ruled by Mercury. The magician represents skill, the ability to manifest your ideas into reality. I would say that's very Gemini. You get a bunch of ideas, you chat it up, you make partnerships, you're go, 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 you're firing emails off. It's really about using your intellect and your resourcefulness to achieve the goals. The magician you'll see has all four suits on this card. We have the magic wand in the hand, we've got a cup, we have the magic wand on the table, we have the cup on the table, we have the sword, the pentacle, we have all four elements. So the magician has everything he needs, very much so. And we have a hand pointed to the sky with a scepter and a finger pointing to the ground. And that really represents kind of manifesting as above, so below, and pulling the energy through the physical body to make manifest on earth. And we see there's an abundant garden. This guy, no, he is resourceful. And people can think about it maybe in this way. You may not have maybe the money in your bank account to do something you would like to do. But if you look around your house, there may be some things you can use to have an in between step to go and earn or get the money you need for something. So maybe you really want to go buy a new piece of technical equipment or a camera or some kind of, maybe you want to make a dress, some fabric, and you don't have any money to do that. You can look around and maybe you have some wood in the garage and you could build a table and refinish it and put some cool decals on it. And maybe somebody would buy it on Facebook Marketplace. That's the magician energy. He's mentally adaptable. So, Gemini. And yeah, we see also the figure 8 over the head. And although it represents infinity, I kind of see it as like the dualistic thinking as well. It's like the yin yang. So, very Gemini here. Overall, I would say let's avoid this and no shame if we're in this. Let's just start to move out of this. Literally, I said no shame, and this is shame and humiliation. So yeah, Ixnay on the Eight of Swords, the kind of lower octave of Gemini. I would say a nice blend between the page and knight would be good. If they had like another sibling and it was just kind of a merger between these two, I'd feel better about it. Um, but it's just a little extreme on both ends. So let's find them. Let's be curious. Let's be students right here with the page. And then let's get out there and make things happen. As we're doing that, we're being mentally adaptable. We're using all of our skills here. But at the end of the day, we're always checking back in to make sure that we're in alignment with our spiritual values. And not to say we always have to be so spiritual, like these people are naked, they want to have fun, there's a volcano, like we know what's up, but like just be mindful about it, I would say. So that's Gemini.
Beautiful. I love it. I feel really good about this one. I think we did good.
Me too. I always love doing these. So
Yeah,
hope you
me
guys
too.
find those super helpful.
Yep. And that's
Mhm.
Gemini in a nutshell. Try to find the
Mhm.
balance, stay active, and don't overthink. That's the big one because that'll just keep you in activity and away from action. And yeah, we can get a lot done now if we'll just be mentally adaptive and explore different ideas, explore different solutions. And when they don't come, drop it and move on to the next thing because then it sinks into your subconscious, which will get to work for you on your behalf. It'll feed you some
Oh yeah.
idea. Yeah, late at night when you're, getting ready for bed, that idea will come to you. So deliberate on things and exactly like Aubrey said, just try and find, you know, just seek and you'll find. Try and find different ideas, different things to get things moving and get things going. And, you will be distracted by somebody who's in your phone texting you or some new love interest or something like that. There's something exciting going on that can really be a convenient distraction. and Saturn's gonna spank you as Saturn squares these things in Gemini. So try to stay disciplined, do have
Hmm.
fun, but as always, it's just about a balance of things. And
Yeah.
yeah, stay out of your head and stay present, and you're gonna do just fine here in June. It's gonna be a blast.
Love it. Love it. Well, thanks so much, Christian.
Thank you, Aubrey.
Okay.
All
Peace.
right, we'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.